Hey everyone, and welcome to another franchise. Well, it's not even a franchise; it's a season mode because in NFL 2K, not even 2K1, this is the original. This is the original Sega sports game. So, for everybody who's used to NBA 2K, NFL 2K actually predates NBA 2K. Anyway, I've decided to redo this because I did a Miami Dolphins franchise, and I completed. Oh, sorry, season. And I completed the entire season. I won the Super Bowl with them, but there was issues with the rendering, and for some reason, the Dreamcast didn't like rendering at 1080p 60 frames per second using the upscale. So everything was lost with the exception of those two games. I would have loved nothing else than to edit those things and put them up. Regardless, I sort of had a break from NFL 2K, and then one of my subscribers requested that I go back into it, and I said, well, name me a team, and he named the 49ers, and with Steve Young, all these guys are Hall of Famers, by the way, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, and Terrell Owens. I thought this is different because the last few years, or last few seasons that I've done, or franchises, with the exception of Steve McNair and the Titans, it's been all running and all defense. Now, there is a running game with San Francisco with Garrison Hearst, but I didn't know this until I can't pronounce his name, so I apologize. But it's a weirdest of name. But he mentioned, this is the same individual that suggested the 49ers, but he mentioned that Garrison Hearst had really an injury that derailed his career in the playoffs. And I didn't even know about this. So I looked it up and I was like, wow, he's right. And he was down in the depth chart because of that. So I had to go and bring him back. And the commentators actually mentioned it prior to the season starting, which is cool. And the commentators in NFL, that's an interesting one. Everyone seems to think of NBA 2K as this huge company of resources that they don't even know what to do with. But NFL 2K, NBA 2K, they had such limited resources and budgets to make these games that they actually had to hire voice actors that weren't affiliated with the NBA or the NFL, and I'm assuming the same with the NHL and the baseball games as well, so they could actually hire these guys for longer. And the results were a much deeper library of sound clips, so they're able to talk about players in depth and in detail. It's really interesting. And you can tell that despite the lack of a budget that they had, that a really finely tuned game was produced. And ironically, you could look. I was going to make a video of this, but I may as well talk about it now. You can make an argument that EA's decision to not produce games for the Dreamcast really pushed Sega, because Sega owned Visual Concepts at that time. They bought them out and they ended up selling it to 2K Studios. That EA was really the cause of their biggest competition. And then in the long run, it ended up costing them a lot more money because then they had to pay for the exclusivity license to NFL 2K. People blame EA for that. That's really a decision that the NFL made because the NBA didn't make that decision. The NFL did, and they gave it to the highest bidder. And of course, 2K, or I'm not sure if it was Sega at that time. Because I'm not sure when they sold it to 2K, but the 2K franchise wanted it, obviously. So there was a bidding war between the two. Of course, EA had more resources, but they had to spend a lot more because there was actual serious competition to get that license. So enough of me talking about the history behind 2K and video games in general. I wanted to talk a little bit more about NFL 2K, and obviously the controller takes a lot to get used to. It's a weird looking design of a thing. It has the cord actually comes out of the bottom as opposed to the top. It's obviously not wireless. There is only one analog stick. There were only two trigger buttons, but I don't mind playing this game at all, and that's why I didn't mind redoing an NFL 2K franchise. Usually once I do a season or a franchise with one team for one season, that's it, I'm done. But I don't mind redoing this primarily because nobody's really done this before, at least on YouTube. So I think it should be, it's a good enough game that if people want to look it up and see exactly how good of a game this was from a franchise, I still say it, from a season mode perspective, there should be at least one season there. So I'm happy to do it. This was a good game against Jacksonville, and people forget how good of a team Jacksonville was. They were the number 1 seed in the AFC, I believe. They lost to the Tennessee Titans, I believe, twice in the regular season. I think that were the only 2 losses that they had. Tennessee was a wild card. They won the wild card. They won the first couple of rounds in the playoffs, including a divisional game on the road up against the Indianapolis Colts. And then they went into Jacksonville. Steve McNair, Eddie George, and Derek Mason had a huge game as a kick returner after a safety. He returned a kick. I'm not even sure if you call that a kick, because it's not a kick off. It's certainly not a punt. Maybe it goes down as a punt. I'm not sure. Regardless, he returned the kick following a safety for a touchdown, and we know they went to the Super Bowl and they ended up losing by 1 freaking yard. That should be a t-shirt, by the way, for all you Titans fans. But regardless, Jacksonville was no joke at that point, and there's a good chance they may have even beaten St. Louis, because their defense maybe was a little bit more consistent, wasn't as banged up as what the Titans' defense was, and maybe they wouldn't have found themselves in that 16-0 hole that the Titans had to dig themselves out of, which they did. But of course, then Kurt Warner throws that essentially a game-winning touchdown pass to, it might have been Isaac Bruce or Torrey Holt, one of their good wide receivers, and then McNair marched them down the field, and of course 1 yard short. Anyway, I've talked for way too long. I'm excited for this because this is going to be a good season. It's going to be a different season. I'm going to be relying heavily on the passing game and the receiving core that I have of also JJ Stokes, as well as the 2 Hall of Famers, and of course getting Garrison Hearst back into the scheme of things and dominating, because his best season was just prior to this injury. So thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoy this series. Of course, the Bears series is still going. I still want to do a basketball series as well, but I might hold off a little bit until I finish these 2. And I want to do maybe a Madden 2002 or a 2003 one. If you got some suggestions, I was thinking about doing one with Ricky Williams when he first went to the Miami Dolphins, because he had a huge year. I think it was 18 or 1900 yards, and I would love to go ahead and do that. So I will think about that, and maybe I'll go ahead and do that. I'm not sure yet, but for the time being, it'll just be these 2 franchises, these 2 seasons going up, and we'll try to alternate it. So one day it will be the Chicago Bears in Madden 07, and the next day it will be the San Francisco 49ers in NFL 2K. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy it, and keep the suggestions rolling.
There's the height. Brady gets the ball. It's the end of the first half, 14-6. I'm told that Michelle has a halftime update from down on the field. Michelle?
During halftime, I had an opportunity to speak with the head coach of the Jaguars. The main thing that he mentioned to me is that there are 2 halves to the game. And while he was happy with the team's performance...
Nice penetration by the defense to stop them behind the line. Young passes. That will bring up a 3rd down situation. To the right sideline. Barlow grabs it with the center look. Brunell passes downfield right. Smith catches the pass. And he's into the score. Brady catches the ball. And they add the 2 extra points.
He knows just where to shuttle the ball, so the receiver alone has a shot at it.
Hollis signals to the referee for the kickoff. And he boots it away. 21 fields the ball just outside his end zone. Sprints ahead, and he got an okay return, and then he's brought down to the turf. It snaps. White gets the pass. Just got the first. Nice job. A gain of... There's the height. First goes right side. He's at the 45. And he'll be plenty past the first down. A gain of 18. Garrison Hearst has tremendous speed, and as a defense, you really have to respect him.
Respect it, Dan, and fear it if you're the one trying to tackle him.
Young throws to the left sideline. Owens was the intended receiver, incomplete. It at the 43-yard line. Hearst speeds ahead, and he got several, but he goes down. Young sees an option to his left. Passes middle. Clark catches the pass. Right. First around his right tackle. He's at the 20.
He is really making the most of every chance he has with the football. The job of playmaker seems to fit him pretty well.
Snap. First dragging tacklers.
Look at the yards after the...
Young is going for the point. Throws right. There's the snap. Young over the middle. Owens was the intended receiver on the play, but it falls incomplete. The height. It's away. Good. He tested his range on that one and at 17-14. 7 gives the referee the signal for the kickoff. And he sends it away. Banks gets it deep. And at the end of the return, he gets taken. It's Height. Scramble. Smith stumbles, gets the ball. He's at the 25. Here it comes. Touchdown! Hollis signals the referee for the kickoff. And the kick's off. First, Harold's ahead. He's at the 40. Tackled by... Past the line. Here we are at the end of the third quarter of play, and the game is within striking distance, 21-17. There's the height. Young passes it middle. Stokes, the snap. First takes it right. He's at the 40. Garrison Hearst devastated his opponent at the tail end of that run by dialing it up and breaking loose.
He almost has to laugh. That's what I look like chasing my 4-year-old son around the backyard.
It's snapped. Young throws. Owens catches it. First brings it right.
Notice how well they've been moving the ball forward in the ground game.
Young passes.
This right here is proof of his error-free quarterbacking. The only place he's putting passes is into the receiver's hands.
First gets past the line, and he's in for the touchdown. Seven gives the referee the signal for the kickoff. And he kicks it away. Barlow fields it deep in his own territory. Taylor from the toss. Great. Taylor takes it left. Carrying the snap. That'll bring up fourth down. There's the snap. 21. That's it. 21. The height.
watching the game is right here. He's just lighting it up, and the defense is going to have to try and find something to try to stop him.
There's the height. First pass is right tackle. A gain of 6 on the play.
Look at these numbers. If I'm the defensive coach on the other side, I'm double underlining his name in my book.
First finds the hole. That will be a first.
He just surpassed the 100-yard mark with that play. Look how more he'll rack up before the final whistle.
First carries it right. He's at the 45. Tackled by Lake. It's Mike. First carries it outside. He's stopped. He's at the 45.
Look at the change from the first half of this game. The coach must have really said...
The snap. Young takes the knee. That will bring up second down. The 49ers come out on top of a very close game, 24-21. That wraps it up here, folks. On behalf of myself, Dan Stevens, and Peter O'Keefe, and Michelle Westfall, and all the crew, I'd like to thank you for joining us.